Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Awaiting Claire's Who's the Daddy pregnancy story? Haley Aaron's character Claire Newman might be preparing for a fervent capitulation by Michael Mealer's character Kyle Abbott. Will there be a Who's the Daddy pregnancy story? Claire has come to the realization that she might have gone a bit too crazy in Los Angeles, even if she succeeded in her goal of trying new things and discovering a new aspect of herself. It was undoubtedly a rash decision to jump into bed with Holden Novak. Claire says she has no regrets, but if she was completely at ease with everything she did, she probably wouldn't be adopting this too wild posture. A part of Claire is doubting everything because of Holden's past and her unresolved love for Kyle. Claire has essentially determined that Holden is not her future since she doesn't think she can live on the edge with him. Regarding Kyle, Claire believes she is unable to provide him with the commitment of marriage and cohabitation that he has sought for. Even though Kyle would love to have those items, he might assure Claire that he doesn't now require them. Kyle might suggest that they put off moving to a new location together after he learns more about Claire's position. Regarding Kyle's aspirations for marriage, he may reassure Claire that he is more than happy to set them aside until she is ready. Kyle might say that Claire will have complete control going forward because he fears losing her forever. Maybe Kyle will explicitly state that he will pursue Claire in every manner possible, even if it means temporarily resuming casual dating. If Claire turns him down at the end of the evening, Kyle might even ask for a single date and promise not to bother her again. Given Claire's genuine love for Kyle and the length of time since their last sexual encounter, YNR may be creating the conditions for their relationship to blow up in the bedroom. It would be wise to have Claire give in to some Kyle passion as soon as possible if she has a pregnancy tale in the future. In this manner, Claire, who recently returned from a trip that had a sexual meeting with Holden, can deal with a paternity mystery. The upcoming storyline involving Claire Newman has the potential to be one of the most explosive arcs The Young and the Restless has seen in years, a tangled, emotional, and passion-fueled web that could pull in multiple key players, shaking Genoa City to its very core. Haley Aaron's Claire has spent months evolving from a broken young woman struggling to reclaim her sense of identity into someone trying desperately to balance her heart's chaos with a semblance of stability. But as fans know, peace is a luxury few get to keep for long in this town. With whispers swirling about a possible Who's the Daddy pregnancy storyline, it seems Claire's moment of reckoning may finally be upon her, and this time, it's not just her heart that's at stake, but the future of two men who couldn't be more different, Kyle Abbott and Holden Novak. Claire has been wrestling with a heavy mix of emotions since her impulsive trip to Los Angeles. What began as a soul-searching adventure turned into something far messier and more dangerous than she could have anticipated. Her time in LA was supposed to be about freedom, self-discovery, and breaking the chains of her past trauma. Instead, it became a psychological roller coaster, one where Holden Novak entered like a storm she didn't see coming. Holden, with his dark charm and mysterious energy, represented everything Claire thought she needed to rediscover herself: danger, desire, and rebellion. He was the man who challenged her fears, pushed her limits, and made her forget the rules. But when the adrenaline faded, so did the illusion. What was left was confusion, guilt, and a gnawing realization that she might have lost herself again in the process of trying to find who she really was. Claire might claim that she has no regrets, that she needed to take those chances, to be bold, to live without fear, but the truth is far more complicated. The human heart doesn't abide by logic. If she were truly as at ease as she pretends to be, she wouldn't keep circling back to Kyle Abbott in her thoughts and dreams. That's the painful truth she can't escape. Holden awakened a part of her she thought was dead, but Kyle owns the part that keeps her alive. And as much as she tells herself that Holden is not her future, that what they shared was just a reckless fling born out of loneliness and curiosity, the emotional fallout is impossible to ignore, especially now, with her body sending signals she can't quite interpret yet. Holden's past is another reason Claire's mind won't rest. He's been carrying secrets, and though he's tried to present himself as the changed man, she knows his soul is far darker than he lets on. She's seen glimpses of that darkness, The same kind that once drew her in and now keeps her awake at night. Could she really build a life with a man whose eyes still hide ghosts of the crimes and lies he's never fully confessed to? Deep down, Claire already knows the answer: she can't. She's determined to leave that chaos behind, but the more she runs from it, the more it seems to chase her. Then there's Kyle. Sweet, steady, and heartbreakingly devoted Kyle Abbott, the man who has always been willing to love her even when she can't love herself. Their connection has always burned slow but deep, and despite the time apart and the chaos that's consumed her, Kyle remains her anchor. Yet Claire's fears keep her from fully embracing him. She knows what he wants: a future built on family, home, and commitment. He wants to build something lasting, something real. But Claire doesn't believe she can give him that. Not yet. The idea of marriage, of moving in together, feels like a promise she's too damaged to make. And yet, Kyle, in his quiet, tender way, refuses to let her go. When Kyle learns that Claire isn't ready to move forward, he doesn't react with anger or disappointment. Instead, he surprises her, and perhaps even himself, with understanding. He tells her that he doesn't need marriage or a house with white picket fences to prove his love for her. He just wants her. All of her, as she is, broken pieces and all. He promises not to push, to give her the space she needs, and to wait until she's ready. That kind of patience melts something deep inside her that she didn't even know was frozen. Kyle's willingness to meet her where she is, instead of where he wishes she'd be, reignites that old spark between them. It's the kind of love that transcends logic, one that burns slowly, but when it finally ignites, it's unstoppable. In one of their most intimate and emotionally charged encounters yet, Kyle might make a bold plea, not for a future, but for one more chance. He could tell her, "You set the pace, Claire. You decide what happens next." Maybe he'll even confess that if he has to start from scratch, just one date, one night, he's willing to take that risk. He'll promise to step away forever if she says no, but he needs to try one last time. The idea of losing Kyle forever terrifies Claire in a way that Holden's chaos never could. It's the difference between passion that consumes and love that heals. And that's where the story begins to shift into dangerous emotional territory. Because that one night, that tender, emotionally charged moment between Kyle and Claire, could change everything. After months apart and so much left unsaid, giving in to the pull between them would feel inevitable. Maybe it happens after a long, vulnerable conversation, maybe after too many glasses of wine, or maybe after Kyle's heartfelt declaration of love. Whatever the trigger, it's bound to be a moment neither of them can stop once it begins. The kiss that starts slow becomes something more, something consuming. It's the kind of night that feels like a homecoming, where every touch feels familiar and every heartbeat feels like an apology for all the pain they've caused each other. But as the morning light creeps in, reality will crash over Claire like a wave. Because just days before, she was in Los Angeles, and she wasn't alone. The ghost of Holden Novak lingers in every shadow, every memory, every quiet moment where she feels her pulse race for the wrong reasons. What if her moment of freedom in LA left her with more than regret? What if it left her pregnant? A pregnancy would send Claire's world spiraling in ways she's not prepared for. The possibility alone would terrify her, not because she doesn't want to be a mother, but because she doesn't know who the father might be. Kyle or Holden? Two men who couldn't be more different, yet both connected to her in ways that would make this secret impossible to hide for long. The guilt alone would eat her alive. Kyle deserves the truth, but how could she look him in the eyes and admit that her LA fling might have consequences neither of them can control? And as for Holden, his reaction could be unpredictable, maybe even dangerous. It's easy to imagine the emotional unraveling that would follow. Claire might try to convince herself that it's just stress, that she's late for other reasons, but as the days tick by, denial becomes impossible. The pregnancy test would become the turning point, a silent, devastating truth staring back at her. She'd probably break down in tears, clutching it in her shaking hands, realizing that every choice she's made has led her here. And in that moment, the strong, confident woman she's tried so hard to become would crumble under the weight of uncertainty. Who's the father? That question would haunt every conversation, every glance, every heartbeat. It wouldn't just be a physical dilemma, it would be an emotional war between past and future, chaos and calm, love and lust. Kyle's reaction could go one of two ways, devastation or unwavering support. But even his kindness could make it worse, because it would remind Claire of just how much she stands to lose. And Holden? He might see this as a second chance, a twisted way to pull her back into his orbit. The tension between all three characters could become the emotional backbone of the show for months. If YNR decides to pursue this direction, it could lead to a powerful, gut-wrenching storyline that explores identity, redemption, and the impossible choices we make for love. A Who's the Daddy? Pregnancy arc wouldn't just be about shock value, it would be about transformation. Claire would be forced to confront her past, her mistakes, and her desires all at once. It would strip her down emotionally and push her to make the hardest decisions of her life. Does she tell Kyle the truth? Does she confront Holden? Or does she try to keep the secret buried, hoping fate won't force her hand? No matter how it plays out, this storyline could redefine Claire Newman's character. For too long, she's been torn between the girl she was and the woman she's trying to become. This pregnancy, if it happens, could be the ultimate catalyst for growth, redemption, and heartbreak. The question isn't just who's the daddy, it's who Claire will become once the truth comes out. And in true Young and the Restless fashion, one thing is certain, when that truth finally explodes, no one in Genoa City will ever be the same again. If the Young and the Restless really leans into a Who's the Daddy? Pregnancy arc for Claire Newman, it could easily become one of the show's most emotionally charged storylines of the year, the kind that doesn't just shake up relationships, but forces everyone involved to face the deepest truths about love, loyalty, and forgiveness. Because for Claire, this wouldn't be just another scandal or a one-night mistake, it would be a collision of two versions of herself, the woman she's trying so desperately to become, and the one she thought she'd left behind in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, Claire believed she was rewriting her own story. She wanted to shed the skin of the haunted, broken woman who'd been manipulated and used for so long. With Holden Novak, she felt like she could control her narrative for once, she was the one choosing the chaos instead of being a victim of it. But that choice came with consequences, and now, as she finds herself back in Genoa City, the ghosts of that wild chapter refuse to fade quietly. Holden had a magnetic pull, a dark allure that drew her in like a moth to flame. She told herself it was empowerment, that she was living freely, but deep down, she knew that every touch, every kiss, every whispered promise was her way of punishing herself for not being able to love Kyle Abbott the way she wanted to. And now, as days turn into weeks, the memory of her night with Holden gnaws at her. She remembers his words, his smirk, his promises that they could run away and never look back. It was thrilling at the time, intoxicating, even, but now it feels hollow. Because what Holden offered her was an escape, not a future. What Kyle offers her, however, is something she's never been able to accept, unconditional love. That's what makes her guilt unbearable. The night she and Kyle reconnected wasn't supposed to happen. It was supposed to be a simple conversation, an attempt to clear the air after months of tension and emotional distance. But when two people who still love each other deeply try to talk about moving on, words have a way of failing. One moment they were arguing, the next they were kissing, desperate, aching, and unable to resist the pull that had always existed between them. It wasn't planned, but it was real. And that's what terrifies Claire the most. The morning after, Claire tried to brush it off as a lapse in judgment, two people clinging to something familiar in a moment of weakness. But every time Kyle looked at her with that mix of love and hope, she felt her heart twist. Because she knew it wasn't just a mistake for him. For Kyle, it was a sign, proof that what they shared wasn't gone, that they still had a chance to rebuild something lasting. And if he ever found out what happened in Los Angeles, that just days before she'd been with another man, that illusion would shatter in an instant. The emotional turmoil brewing inside Claire could easily spiral into something darker. The possibility of pregnancy adds layers of fear and confusion that she's simply not equipped to handle. Every day that passes without an answer feels like torture. The uncertainty consumes her, the way her body feels different, the way her emotions seem unsteady, the way her reflection seems almost foreign. And as much as she wants to push it aside, that quiet, lingering question refuses to fade: what if I'm pregnant? Imagine the scene: Claire standing in her bathroom, hands trembling as she holds a small test that could change everything. The seconds stretch into eternity. She thinks of Holden, the way he looked at her when he said she was different, the way he made her feel like the world could be dangerous and safe all at once. Then she thinks of Kyle, steady, kind, loyal Kyle, the one who's always been there when she's fallen apart. When the result finally appears, the color drains from her face. Her worst fear has been confirmed. She's pregnant. The silence in that moment would be deafening. For a woman like Claire, who spent her life fighting for control, this realization would feel like a cruel joke. Control is gone. Fate has taken over. The only thing left now is to face the truth, or hide from it. And for a while, hiding might seem easier. She could rationalize it: it's too soon to say anything. I need to be sure. It's no one's business yet. But the longer she hides it, the heavier the secret becomes. Claire's mind would race through every possible scenario. If the baby is Holden's, her entire future with Kyle could vanish in a heartbeat. But if it's Kyle's, the timing still raises questions she's not ready to answer. No matter how she looks at it, she's trapped. There's no path forward that doesn't lead to heartbreak. And what happens when Holden finds out? That's where things could turn truly volatile. Holden Novak isn't the kind of man who walks away quietly. His feelings for Claire might run deeper, or darker, than anyone realizes. When he learns that she might be pregnant, he could see it as his second chance, his opportunity to tie her to him forever. His possessive streak could resurface, leading him to manipulate the situation in dangerous ways. Maybe he'll insist he's the father. Maybe he'll use it as leverage. Or maybe he'll simply refuse to believe that Claire could ever belong to anyone else. Kyle, on the other hand, could become the emotional anchor of the story. He'd sense something's wrong long before Claire says a word. Her avoidance, her nervous energy, the way she flinches every time he mentions their night together: Kyle's not blind. And when he finally confronts her, the moment could be one of the most emotional scenes YNR has delivered in years. Picture it: Claire, tears streaming down her face, trying to form the words while Kyle stands there, heart pounding, waiting for an explanation that he knows will destroy him. When she finally says, "I'm pregnant," the world could seem to stop. But that's only the beginning. Because then comes the question that neither of them wants to ask, the one hanging in the air like a loaded gun: is it mine? The silence that follows would be excruciating. Claire's hesitation would tell him everything before she even speaks. Kyle's devastation would be immediate, a mix of shock, heartbreak, and anger. He might walk away, unable to process it. Or worse, he might stay, determined to help her no matter what, even if the child isn't his. Because that's who Kyle Abbott is, a man who leads with his heart, even when it destroys him. The fallout could ripple through Genoa City. Summer Newman, Kyle's ex, would undoubtedly have something to say about it, perhaps questioning Claire's motives, stirring up old jealousy, or warning Kyle not to be a fool. Diane Jenkins and Jack Abbott would step in with their own opinions, likely urging Kyle to get clarity before he gets hurt again. And if Nikki Newman, Claire's grandmother, catches wind of the situation, she'd go into full protective mode, fearing that this new crisis could send Claire spiraling back into self-destruction. Meanwhile, Holden could reappear at the worst possible moment, adding fuel to the fire. Perhaps he hears about the pregnancy through gossip or by following Claire back to Genoa City. The confrontation between Holden and Kyle could be explosive, raw, tense, and deeply personal. Holden would likely taunt Kyle, insinuating that Claire always comes back to him because he understands her wild side in a way Kyle never could. Kyle, in turn, would defend her, insisting that she deserves better than a manipulative man like Holden. It's the kind of triangle that could define an entire season, filled with love, rage, and impossible choices.